Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday episode of the Fumble Sports Show. It is so wonderful to be with you as we work our way to NFL Week 12. We're a little more than 48 hours away from an AFC North battle between the Steelers and the Browns. That should be good for betting. May not be great for fantasy owners, but we'll obviously talk about that over the next hour, as well as some of the other great matchups and plays that should be made for NFL Week 12. So happy to have you with us across all of our platforms: TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, Kick, Twitter, X. It's so wonderful to be with you. Always love talking sports with you guys. A lot of things going on in the sports world, not so much in the fantasy section. Injury reports still getting worked through and things like that. But we had a change in GM for the New York Giants. Giants fired their general manager, and there are reports that Aaron Rodgers won't be the starting quarterback of the Jets in 2025. So interesting news there. News across the NFL in a number of different ways. We'll talk about all of it throughout the course of the show. But of course, we're here to answer your fantasy questions. So throw them in the comments section, throw them in the chat, because that's where we're going to focus most of our time. Appreciate you being with us. That's where we're going to be at, everybody. So let's get at it. Alex, you get the honor of the first question of the day. Trade Terry McLaurin and Garrett Wilson for Jamar Chase. I think you're giving up too much value in that trade, so I would say no. I understand the thought, but I would still say no, despite what Jamar Chase has put up so far this year. G Money, Knicks or Purdy for this week? It's a really great question on this one. Interestingly enough, the question really comes down to whether you think Bo Nix can continue to have the kind of performances that he's had over the last few weeks. Personally, against the Raiders, I don't think so. I think Brock Purdy is a slightly better play. Bo Nix has played well. I don't think he continues it against the Raiders, believe it or not. Raiders as a pass defense have actually been serviceable so far this year. So far as a pass defense, the Raiders are, let's say, top 10. They're kind of on the fringes of 10, 11. So I would lean towards Purdy over Nix. Purdy over Nix on that one, in a question that, again, is probably closer than it would have been at the beginning of the season. But by how Bo Nix has played, and especially with his rushing yards, I think that makes a really big difference for me, is how the rushing yards have played out. So I'm going to lean just slightly towards Brock Purdy on it, but it's a very interesting question. We'll probably talk about it throughout the week, depending on how injuries play out, especially for the 49ers, since, frankly, the injuries have really plagued them most of the season. Appreciate you guys being with us. Eddie, should I drop Stroud for Nix? No, I certainly wouldn't do that. I still very much believe in C.J. Stroud. I know he hasn't played his best football over the last few weeks, but I'm very high on C.J. Stroud still. I love the fact that Nico Collins is back. I certainly think that makes a significant difference for him. The Houston Texans, their matchup this week's against Tennessee, not a good matchup, Eddie. So I do think Bo Nix might be a slightly better play this week, but we'll talk about it throughout the course of the week. Vitor, do I start Rome Odunze over Kraft or Ferguson? Also need who to start at the tight end position. Yeah, I got it. The Bears have a great matchup against the Vikings. I do think I would put Rome Odunze in there. I do like that matchup for him. Between Kraft and Ferguson, Ferguson does have the better matchup, I think slightly, but I don't trust the quarterback situation, especially after the concussion. So I would go Kraft. Vitor, I'd go Rome Odunze and I'd go Kraft on that one. Jaden Ortiz, Aaron Jones, Brian Robinson, or Jawan Jennings. Really good question. There are a number of running backs I really like this week, and you named at least two of them right there. Aaron Jones and Brian Robinson Jr. are both running backs that I really like this week. Both very, very high on my overall running backs list. The matchups are very favorable. Brian Robinson Jr., though, is going to come out on top on this one. You saw what Dallas did against Joe Mixon last night, which was nothing. I lean towards Brian Robinson Jr. out of that grouping. Jaden Ortiz, I wish you could start both Jones and B-Rob, but I would definitely go Brian Robinson Jr. Appreciate the questions. Saniv, should I give away Jonathan Taylor and Devontae for CMC? No. Have you seen CMC play so far? He's not the Christian McCaffrey that he was last year, and he may not be this entire season. Our expectations for him should definitely be brought down. I think you're giving up way too much in that trade. All in one show. Trade Flowers for Jennings. I understand Jennings has come on very strong with the injuries to the wide receiver core of the 49ers. But no, I wouldn't give up Flowers. I think that's an overreaction. I think Flowers had a disappointing week slightly. I mean, he still caught a touchdown last week. But overall, I'm still just very, very high on Zay Flowers. I would not move on from him. Against the Chargers, I know the Chargers are a good defense, but wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens ended up winning that game. I just wouldn't make that move all in one show. Brock Ford, sit 2 between DJ Moore, Smitty, Juwan Jennings, D-Hop, and Ridley. Okay. D-Hop has the Carolina Panthers, which is a phenomenal matchup. I'm leaning slightly towards D-Hop being up. You're asking me to sit them? Brock Ford, I got to admit, there's too many balls up in the air for me on that one. I really like DJ Moore. I would play him. I'd really start D-Hop. I would play him. Not crazy about Jennings, even with the matchup, because the matchup against the Green Bay Packers. Tennessee's going up against Houston. I don't like Ridley. Right now, the Eagles play the Rams on Sunday Night Football. Brock Ford, I would sit Ridley, and I think I'd sit Jennings. I think I'd sit Ridley and Jennings on this one. Very, very close because the Green Bay Packers pass defense is kind of middle of the pack, but it's been playing better in the second half of the season. So I would sit Jennings and Ridley. Appreciate your questions. Hope you're having a great day. D. Turner, Drake May, or Jared Goff? Jared Goff. Jared Goff has a phenomenal matchup once again against the Indianapolis Colts. Jared Goff should be a great play. I told you guys last week he was going to be the number 1 quarterback in fantasy. Don't think he lives up to that level this week, but I do think he plays very, very well against a Colts pass defense that so far this year is bottom 7 in the league and really should be even worse. They frankly have faced some offenses that haven't taken advantage of how bad they are. Farid, I got Kyron Williams, Achan Neighbors, and gave Jacobs, Chase, and Josh Downs. Giving it a grade. It's tricky right now. I probably would be down on it. I'm saying you lose the trade just barely because Jamar Chase is playing insanely well. Kyron Williams has disappointed ever since the 2 wide receivers have come back, Puka and Kupp, to health. He hasn't quite played as well from a fantasy standpoint, so his values come down. It might come back over the coming weeks, but I think the Jacobs, Chase, and downside wins that trade right now, and the big difference is Josh Downs is playing better than Malik Neighbors as of right now, just by how he's being used. And Naki Sabak, Hunter Henry, Zach Ertz, or Schoonmaker. So between the tight ends, I think I'm leaning just slightly, just barely, towards Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz against the Dallas Cowboys is the one I'd go with. So in Naki, I'd go Zach Ertz on that one. Blood, WYD, Jacoby Myers or Devontae Smith. Jacoby Myers' matchup against the Denver Broncos is one I want nothing to do with. I'll take Devontae Smith. Blood, I'll go Devontae Smith on that one. Calberg, who should I drop for Taysom Hill? Ferguson, Laporta, or Hunter Henry? I would drop Ferguson. I don't really want any part of that Cowboys passing game or offense overall, really. Blake, Sutton, or Hunt? This is going to be a great week for Kareem Hunt. If you have Kareem Hunt, he is a must play this week, a must start this week. He's one of my favorite running backs. Kareem Hunt is a must play. Very much, very much, very much be mindful of that. Whether it's DFS, player props, Kareem Hunt, monster week this week. Jack, D-Hop, or Debo? I would go D-Hop on that one. I'd go D-Hop just barely over Debo. Aaron, Kyler, or Herbert? Herbert's going up against the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to go with Herbert just barely. I love the passing yards opportunities, and he's combining that with some rushing yards every now and then. But the Ravens, I know the Ravens played the Steelers very well defensively. I think that's more of a rivalry thing. Outside of that one game, put that game in a silo. Outside of that, Ravens have been giving up a ton of passing yards. I think Justin Herbert throws a ton of yards on Sunday Night Football. even though, or on Monday Night Football rather, even though I do think the Ravens ultimately win. Shunk 13, trade Chuba Hubbard and Garrett Wilson for DK and JT. Bit of a risk all of a sudden, but yes, I would say yes to the trade. The only reason I say it's a bit of a risk is Chuba Hubbard's played incredibly well, but I'll say yes to the trade, Shunk 13. H. Hockey, Tracy, Reed, Pollard, or Bucky at the flex. Great question. Between all of those running backs, man, I really like Bucky Irving this week. He's got a great matchup. He's probably the one I like the most out of that group between Pollard, Bucky, Reed, Tracy. Hard to sit Reed, but against the 49ers, I'm willing to do it. H-Hockey, I'm going to go Bucky Irving out of that group. Just love the matchup that he has. Probably what stands out most to me. Hope you guys are enjoying the content and enjoying the conversation. Again, by the way, Bucky Irving's playing the Giants. Should have mentioned that. Giants, such a bad run defense. Bucky Irving, Rachaad White, two players that I really do like this week. Kobe Fisher traded CD, Stevenson, White for Kamara and Garrett Wilson. I have Terry. I got a Kobe Fisher. I understand. I think you probably gave up a little bit too much in the deal overall, but I understand why you did it. Just trying to move on from some players. Jordan 08, Jamar Chase for Jahmyr Gibbs and George Pickens. I have Chase and Kamara on a bye, and I need a running back. You're getting Gibbs and Pickens. I love that right now. Pickens is playing well enough where I like that deal. Q. Keenan Allen or Javonte in a flex position. Really interesting spot here because the Denver Broncos going up against the Raiders. Great run, great defense to run against. Keenan Allen, good offense to go. Bears are going up against the Vikings. Good pass defense to go against. So the matchups are favorable for both. Q. I'd go Javonte. I think I leaned into the estimate hype a little bit too much last week. Javonte showed he's still the top running back there. Good running back matchup is always going to be more favorable to me. So Q. I'll go Javonte just barely. Thanks for the share, guys. Roberto, would you start Herbert or Murray? I'd start Herbert. Keyshav, do I start Kittle and Mooney, or do I do Kittle and Mooney for James Cook? I get Cook. I'd say no. I'd say no to that. I don't think Cook's valuable enough. The Bud Knight 123 trade McLaurin and Pacheco for A.J. Brown. That trade looks really good right now, but the moment Pacheco comes back, which could be this week, it doesn't look as good. I think Pacheco, it depends on how they split carries. The Bud Knight, if you feel like you have enough depth at running back and you want to feel like you're upgrading a wide receiver, I'll say yes to it. But overall, you are giving up more value than I think you are getting back. Richard Chavez, Jameis Winston, or Drake May. On this one, I'm going to lean just barely, I think, towards Drake May, believe it or not. It's close. It's very, very close. The challenge for me is the Miami Dolphins pass defense was very strong, top 3. It's kind of slid over the last few weeks. And on the other side, the Pittsburgh Steelers pass defense, I know they've given up some yards, but against Jameis, I feel like they could play a better game. I'm going to go Drake May, Richard, just barely over Jameis Winston in what's a very, very tight call. Bo Nix or Kyler Murray? Great question on that front. Arizona this week is going up against Seattle. I like that matchup for Kyler Murray overall. I'm going to say Kyler Murray just barely. Kyler Murray just barely over Bo Nix. Close, but I do think Kyler Murray takes advantage of it. It's his rushing yards that I actually think make some of the difference on that one. Seattle, a good pass defense, but at times can lose a quarterback. I do think there's value there. Melvin, Justin Herbert, or Mayfield rest of season. I think it depends on what the wide receiver situation is in Tampa Bay. I actually think it could still be Baker Mayfield if Mike Evans comes back healthy. But if Mike Evans has issues getting back on the field, that might slow things down and lead me to believe Herbert's the better play. Anthony, trade Kyron. Right now, his values come down. I wouldn't trade him, but I might be the last on the Titanic for that one. Jaden Tatro? I have Pacheco, Hunt, and Ramondre. Do I double up on Pacheco and Hunt or play Ramondre? Kind of an interesting question here. The Miami Dolphins run defense is struggling, and that's what lends me to believe that Stevenson is worth the start. I'd probably lean on Hunt and Ramondre. I'd rather go with what I've seen. And then, great, you have Pacheco for the following week, but you got to have... It's something to be considered because the Panthers' run defense is so bad, but the Dolphins is bad enough, and I want Ramondre Stevenson, I think. but you could consider all three. I understand why. Coop, do I start Mahomes or Hopkins this week? Oh, do I start them both? Yeah, Coop, this is a week you can stack them. Yep, this is a week you can stack them. Scrambled eggs, Cole Kmet or Noah Gray against the Panthers? Interesting question. Noah Gray played well last week, but I actually think that's more of a sign of him playing a good defense. I don't think Noah Gray is going to be a good play this week, and here's why. The Panthers aren't a good defense overall. So this is a week in which the Chiefs can go to their kind of primary players, their star players, and get good production. When you're going up against the Bills, and the Bills defense is smart enough to try to take away Kelsey, take away D-Hop, take away your top weapons, you have to use your secondary or tertiary weapons. You don't have to against the Carolina Panthers. I think this is going to be a D-Hop game. I think this is going to be a Kareem Hunt game. Maybe Pacheco, depending on the overall number of carries. But I think this is a game in which the stars of the Chiefs have a get-right game after that game against the Bills. So I wouldn't go with Noah Gray. I'm not high on Cole Kmet, but I actually think he might be a slightly better play this week. He's got a decent matchup of his own going up against the Vikings. Jaden Ortiz, Pickens or Nico Collins? Okay, Nico Collins and the Houston Texans going up against Tennessee is just a bad enough matchup where I'm gonna go Pickens. Jaden Ortiz, I'm gonna lean Pickens just barely. Stone Cold P-Man, start Evans over Pickens or Puka. Puka's matchup against the Eagles isn't a good one anymore. Eagles secondaries really come on strong, so I'm kind of fading a little bit away from Puka. Pickens' matchup, I think I like more than Puka's, but as for the matchup, I think I like Mike Evans I think I like George Pickens the most, rather. I think I like George Pickens over Mike Evans. So Stone Cold P-Man, I think I'm leaning towards George Pickens just barely. The Cleveland Browns pass defense, very middle of the pack. I think I'm leaning towards George Pickens. That chemistry between Russell Wilson and Pickens is real. I'm going to lean towards the wide receiver one of the Steelers on that one. Appreciate your questions. Hope you're enjoying the conversation. Nuve DK, drop Kirk for Bo Nix. Well, with Atlanta on a bye, I'm willing to do it this week because Kirk Cousins is probably someone that you'd be able to pick up in future weeks. Nico, Allen, and Wilson for Baker and Puka or Terry. I'm not giving up Josh Allen right now, and I don't want to give up Garrett. No, Nico, I would say no to the deal. Who can I get for Kareem Hunt? It depends on, one, what the Pacheco situation is, and two, it depends on teams in your league. Who needs a running back? Who has, depending on who needs a running back, what other pieces might they have? Cody Meyerson is trading King Henry and Garrett Wilson for Amon-Ra and Gibbs way too much. Is that Amon-Ra? It says Armon and Gibbs. Cody Meyerson, rewrite the question, bud. Ace Stanley, Kupp, Pickens, or Evans? Sit one. I'd probably sit Evans just barely. Again, don't quite know what I'm getting from him. I want to make sure he's healthy enough. Maybe later in the week I'll change my opinion on that. But at least for the moment, I'm going to sit Evans. The Giants have a very good pass defense. That's the other thing. Giants are actually top 5 as a pass defense. So I'm not in love with the Buccaneers this week. I'd actually, putting this out there now because I was doing my research for Week 12 last night, I kind of like the Giants to cover. Giants are a 5.5-point home underdog. They have the quarterback change. I know the Bucs are coming off a bye, but there's a part of me that kind of likes the Giants to cover that. I thought I was playing with what the different line movements would be. Giants +8 is what I was thinking about, kind of an early placement on a lot of my parlay bets. But just putting that out there for you guys, there's a lot of data and there's a lot of trends and there's a lot of value right now taking the Giants to cover against the Bucs this week after the quarterback change. Joe, just a heads up about that one. Okay, Cody Meyerson giving away Henry and in return Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and Gibbs. Yeah. So overall, I do think St. Brown and Gibbs are more valuable than Henry and Wilson, just barely, very close. But the only issue is you're doubling up on the same offense. So when they're not playing the Jacksonville Jaguars and they're not able to spread the wealth around to everybody, you are cannibalizing your value a little bit. Individually, I think they probably come together and get more value, but it's close. Mike, drop Kraft for Jonnu Smith. I don't think I'd do that. I think Jonnu Smith really was a function of facing a Raiders team that is one of the worst in the NFL against tight ends. That's actually important to note. This week, the Denver Broncos are going up against the Raiders. The Raiders are one of the worst defenses in the NFL against tight ends. So I don't know if that's a Jonnu Smith effect, great, breakout game last week, or really if that was a function of the opponent that they'll be facing. More questions? Appreciate you guys joining us. Jacob, just traded Kyron in London for Saquon. I already have Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think you gave up a little bit more value than you get back. But I do think Saquon's going to outperform Kyron rest of season, so I do think you solidified that RB1 spot. Nick, Swift, Baker, and MHJ for Daniels and Swift. Nick, confused by the question. Rewrite it, bud. Shells, do I get rid of Jonathan Taylor? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Do I think that you could see Anthony Richardson vulture some of his touchdowns? Yes. I still think of all the aspects of the Colts offense, the one that is most critical to their success is Jonathan Taylor. I still think Jonathan Taylor is what drives the bus there in Indianapolis. So even if Anthony Richardson starts vulturing some of those red zone or goal line end zone opportunities, I still think Jonathan Taylor is a good play and a good own. And just keep in mind, rest of season, he still has some divisional games. Jacksonville is a bad defense. Tennessee is a bad run defense. The Houston Texans are a decent defense, but he has owned them historically. Just quickly looking at the schedule that Indianapolis has over the next few weeks. Okay, so they play the Lions, they play the Patriots. He's going to have success against the Patriots. Then he has a bye. Then he plays Denver. That's a good defense to run against. Tennessee, good defense to run against. And in Week 17, if you were to make it to a championship game in your fantasy football league, Jonathan Taylor faces the New York Giants that week, assuming that everybody plays and it's a normal week. That's as good an own as you could probably have for a championship matchup. So I'm still high on Jonathan Taylor. I think the only thing that kind of prevents me from really liking him rest of season is he has a late bye. The Colts just have that Week 14 bye. And it's kind of nice to own guys who can actually play every week rest of season. Little Rob, what up? Pick 3, please. Okay, Ramondre, Swift, Sutton, DJ Moore, or Rashad White. Okay, Little Rob, I would go Stevenson, I'd go DJ Moore, and I'd go Rashad White. Stevenson, Moore, and Rashad White. Thanks so much for the question. Hope you're enjoying the show. Mr. Lopez, who to start? Purdy, Love, Herbert, or Mahomes? It's a Mahomes week for me. You're going up against Carolina. You're coming off a loss. This is going to be a get-right game for the Kansas City Chiefs. My expectation is that Patrick Mahomes has one of his best games of the year. If he doesn't, it's just going to be because the running backs perform so well. But against the Carolina Panthers, I got to go with Patrick Mahomes. Just too good a matchup for me on that one, Mr. Lopez. Lean on that. Justin Herbert would be number 2. If you are worried that maybe Mahomes' touchdowns go down because Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Pacheco could take them away, Justin Herbert is 100% the second one that I would go with. More questions, more answers. Bryce, Darnold, or Richardson? I'm going to lean just slightly, I think, towards... I got to go Richardson. Bryce, I got to go Richardson. It's a better matchup overall. Lions do give up passing yards, and Richardson, we already saw what he could do against the Jets, last week against the Jets in terms of rushing touchdowns. Bryce Pruitt, I'd go Richardson over Darnold. Richardson over Darnold. BK's finest, trade Will Levis and Will Levis is in a trade? Oh my God. Trade Will Levis and James Conner for Rodgers and JT. I'd rather own Rodgers and JT, I think. Nick, Swift, Baker, and MHJ for Daniels and Jonathan Taylor. Interesting. I think I'd rather own Swift, Baker, and MHJ, though. It's close. Really quick, The Washington Commanders, rest of season. Dallas, favorable matchup, but then they play Tennessee, not good. Bye week, so no value. Then they play the Saints, good value there. They play the Eagles, not good value. I don't think Jaden Daniels is as good an own the rest of the season. Meanwhile, Tampa Bay, rest of season, plays the Giants, Carolina, Raiders, Chargers, Cowboys, and Carolina. I'd rather own Swift, Baker, and MHJ, Nick. Swift, Baker, and MHJ is the better side of the deal. Diamond, Decker, Mike Evans, or Jawan Jennings. I think I'm going to lean Jawan Jennings. I lean Jawan Jennings on that one just barely. Amber, Charles, Eckler, and CD for Brian Thomas Jr. and James Cook. I would rather have Brian Thomas Jr. and James Cook. I think Eckler's value has come on strong over the last few weeks, but I still have my doubts. I just like having James Cook. He's the one in this group I like the most. New Jersey Memes, Otten, Disley, or Jonnu, rest of season. It's Cade Otten. Cade Otten. Mario, pick up Worthy. Yep, I'd pick up Worthy. Right as we wrote him off, he started to make plays. And what I liked most about it was they're using that speed again. They're not trying to just treat him like a wide receiver. Get him in sweeps, get him in jet sweeps, get him in screen passes, wide receiver screens. Just get him involved. Eric Anderson, should I drop Hunt? No, I actually think Hunt still has some meat left on the bone. He still has some value. I wouldn't move on from him just yet. Scrambled eggs. Start 3 this week. Lamb, Evans, McConkey, and McLaurin. I think I'd bench Evans, so it's McConkey, McLaurin, and Lamb. McConkey, McLaurin, and Lamb would be the 3 for me scrambled eggs. And the reason, again, is the New York Football Giants are the 4th best pass defense, at least statistically, in the NFL. They are allowing just around 185 pass yards per game. Not a lot, actually. They have a really good defensive front. I don't know what Tristan Wirfs' injury status is for this upcoming Sunday, but if the Buccaneers' offensive line isn't healthy enough for the Giants, don't be surprised if that game, again, is closer, and if Mike Evans isn't getting the time to get open against what's a much better Giants defense than I think people acknowledge. I think the Giants are that classic case of if they had a quarterback who was playing top 15 in the league play, they'd be a playoff team. Otherwise, you're seeing what happens. Kyle Klein, I actually do have some NBA plays tonight. So, a couple NBA player prop bets for you guys. We're going to throw this one up on the board. I actually am just going to throw all my picks up on the screen. I have a bunch of picks for tonight. If you guys want my picks every day, DM me on Instagram. But the picks that I have for this evening are up on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, and X. For those on TikTok, here are the picks that I like for tonight. We'll get back to fantasy questions in one moment. But here are the NBA and college basketball picks that I like for this evening. I do like the Celtics on the money line. I'm leaning closer to the Celtics covering than them not covering, but I didn't bet that really. I took them on the money line. Drew Holiday, 10-plus points. Drew Holiday, 10-plus points. And I actually think Jason Tatum could go under 28.5 points. Didn't put it up on the big board, but I think I'm leaning closer to Jason Tatum on the under side than on the over. But the bet I really like in the player prop bet category for Celtics is Drew Holiday, 10-plus points. I also think Darius Garland probably gets above 15. Does he get to 18? I think so, but 15 for same-game parlays. I like the Nets on the money line. I like the Brooklyn Nets on the money line. I like the Mavericks on the money line. They're a heavy favorite. But I don't just like Mavericks money line. I like Luka Doncic, 25-plus points. I also like Kyrie Irving, 5-plus assists. So for a bunch of you folks out there, I really like the combination of Luka Doncic on 25-plus points, Kyrie Irving, 5-plus assists. I think I also took Luka Doncic at at least 2 3-pointers. So I did some same-game parlays where it was Mavericks money line, Luka Doncic, 25-plus points, Luka Doncic, at least 2 3-pointers to get around even money, plus 130, I think. Okay, more picks for you. I like the Lakers on the money line. Love the Lakers on the money line. Wouldn't be surprised if the Jazz cover at like a plus 13.5. If you told me that game was actually a little bit closer than people think, it wouldn't shock me, just putting it out there. I do think Colin Sexton, 15 plus points, really like that. Anthony Davis, I do think gets to 25 plus points. If he got to 30, wouldn't surprise me. Could see Anthony Davis getting to 30 points. I also have Austin Reeves, 18 plus points. So, Laker game, I'm kind of all over the place. Colin Sexton, 15 plus. Anthony Davis, 25 plus. And Austin Reeves, 18 plus. That's all points. Last pick that I have for you guys for tonight's action, Purdue plays Marquette. The only college basketball game worth a damn tonight. Two top 20 teams facing off. Really good matchup. I looked at the trends. When Purdue has been an underdog of -4 or more, or 4 points or more, they have, the under is hit. The under's a very good trend tonight for Purdue Marquette. So I'm taking under 152.5. That's the current total, but I really like that one. Okay, I know you guys aren't crazy about talking about sports betting on non-football days, so let's get back to your fantasy football questions and get at it, everybody. Tristan, trade Saquon for Cup and Swift. Nope, wouldn't do it. Tristan, I wouldn't do it. Drew, need a flex. Wandale or Bucky? Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving's the play on that one. Joey, Bo Nix or Jaden Daniels? I think I'm leaning slightly towards Jaden Daniels against the Dallas Cowboys. Feel like that's the better play on that one. Appreciate the question. C, Love or Nix? It's closer than I want it to be. I think it's Bo Nix right now. See, I think it's Bo Nix over Jordan Love, but ask me again later in the week. Robert Gladstone, please pick 3. Robert Gladstone, I'd go McConkey. I'd go McConkey, Harrison, JSN. McConkey, Harrison, JSN. I would sit Swift. I really don't want to play Swift against the Minnesota Vikings run defense. Francesco, Tony Pollard, or Tracy Jr. I'm going to lean towards Tracy Jr. Francesco, I'll go Tracy Jr. Cody Meyerson, Baker, or Goff. It's Goff by a wide margin. Cody, I'd go Goff over Baker. Peace Control, should I try and move on from Hubbard? He has an elite playoff schedule. Yeah, I would keep Hubbard. I'd keep Hubbard right now. Mega Brick, full PPR, start 1 for the flex. Pittman, Judy, or Tracy Jr. I think I'm leaning just slightly towards Tracy Jr. over Pittman. Very, very close on this one. Just quickly looking at the matchups. Pittman's matchup against the Lions is a good one overall, but I think Tracy Jr.'s matchup is still just a little bit more favorable for me. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers is a run defense. They're middle of the pack. It's close. I lean Tracy Jr., but very, very close on that one. Hope you guys are enjoying the content and enjoying the show. Make sure you hit the follow button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you are a follower of Fumble Sports. Kaysen, Herbert, or Daniels? I'm going to go with Justin Herbert this week, actually. Ravens pass defense, that's what I want to go against. I'll go Justin Herbert just barely. Cody Meyerson, trade Swift and Garrett Wilson for Chase Brown? No, I don't think I would. It's close, but I don't think I would. Mega Brick, full PPR, sit 1. I would sit Judy. Mega Brick, I would sit Jerry Judy. New DK, trade Hunt and Downs for Hawkinson and Devontae Smith. I don't love it. I don't love it, to be honest with you. It's okay. It just depends on where Hunt's value shakes out, but I'm not crazy about it. Michaela Petro, QBs for the week. Russell Wilson or Tua Tagovailoa. It's Tua. It's Tua. I've seen the Patriots' pass defense struggle now enough where I would go Tua. Gotta hand it to you. Should I pick up Elijah Moore or Judy? Noticed Moore was in the slot. Yeah, it seemed like Elijah Moore was getting a lot of good opportunities. Maybe somebody to consider, but I'm not going nuts for it. Brandon Castillo, Montgomery and Higgins for Henry. Higgins on my bench, and I have CMC and Gibbs. I love this trade overall. I do think Montgomery is worth owning, so if you want to hold on to Montgomery, but I think it's pretty close, Brandon. Hope you guys are enjoying the conversation. Adam, glad to know that you won on our bet with Bo Nix. User 9741, Reed, Adunze, Evans, Moore, pick 2. User 97, I'd go Rome Adunze and Jaden Reed. Rome Adunze and Jaden Reed. Brock Hopkins, what do you think about Gibbs for Kamara? I don't like it. I don't like it. Justin Lane, start 2. Flowers, Jawan Jennings, or Sutton? Justin Lane, I'd go Sutton and Flowers. Justin Lane, I'd go Sutton and Flowers. Ryan Andrews, Jonnu Smith, or Ertz for the tight end position. I'm leaning slightly towards Ertz. Ryan, I'm leaning slightly towards Ertz. Hope you guys are with us every single day that we go live. To make sure that you are, hit the follow button. That way you never miss our show. Wonderful having you guys with us every single day. Joe George, Purdy or Jalen Hurts this week? I gotta say it's Jalen Hurts for me. I'm gonna lean Jalen Hurts, Joe George. Jalen Hurts is the play. Warney, Pickle, Metcalf, Neighbors, or Lamb, start 2. I'm leaning towards Metcalf. I'm leaning Metcalf and Neighbors. Metcalf and Neighbors. Warney, Pickle, I'd go Metcalf and Neighbors on that one. I would sit Lamb. Diego M, Garrett Wilson, Neighbors. Which one would I go with? Malik Neighbors and the New York Jets this week are on a bye. So Garrett Wilson's on a bye week, Diego. So it's Neighbors. That's a reminder for everybody. So there are 6 teams on a bye this week. 6 teams on a bye. The Atlanta Falcons, Buffalo Bills, Cincinnati Bengals, New Orleans Saints, New York Jets, and Jacksonville Jaguars. So there are 6 teams on a bye. One more time, just to make sure. You may have players that are on a bye week this week. Make sure you're aware, okay? Atlanta Falcons, bye week. Buffalo Bills, bye week. Bengals, Saints, Jets, Jaguars. Those are your 6 teams on a bye. Hope you guys are with us every day. Dan, pick 1. Terry McLaurin, Debo, or Ramondre. I lean Ramondre Stevenson. Dan, I lean Ramondre Stevenson. Just barely over Terry McLaurin. Tiger, keep 2. Rest of season, Burrow, Nix, and Wilson. I would definitely keep Joe Burrow, and I'm leaning just slightly, I think. I'm still leaning towards Russell Wilson, I think. Bo Nix has played well, but I'd have to look at their rest of season schedules, Tiger, and I really just don't want to do that at the moment. Daniel Simpson traded Goddard and Reed for Mike Evans. I think he gave up maybe a little bit too much value. I think I like Reed, frankly, more than Mike Evans, but it's close. So, Dan, I lean towards Stevenson. Dan, I'd go Stevenson. Peace Control, do you think Olave will come back and play in the playoffs? I think he ultimately will, but there's nothing that gives me that indication other than the timeline of the injury or what we would expect it to be. Paolo, Kyler Murray, or Sam Darnold? I'd go Kyler Murray. Paolo, I'd go Kyler Murray. Brock Hopkins. Oh, okay. Let's get back to some of these questions. Christopher, I'd go Javonte Williams. Christopher, Javonte Williams. Porter, I'd go Jaden Daniels. Porter, Jaden Daniels. Austin Joe, trade away Chase Brown and Adams and Shakir for Derrick Henry and Cooper Kupp. Yeah, I'm okay with the trade. Austin Joe, I'm good with it. I'm good with it. Dimitri, trade CMC, Zay, Pollard for K9 and Malik Neighbors. Dimitri, that's a terrible trade. Absolutely not. No. Romeo, pick 2. Pacheco, Najee, Bucky, Wandale, and Myers. Romeo, it's Pacheco and Bucky. As long as Pacheco is playing, it's Pacheco and Bucky Irving. Sean, start 1, Laporta and Njoku or Cade Otton. If Cade Otton is healthy enough to go, I think it's if Laporta, Sean, if Laporta is healthy enough to go, I think it's Laporta. Sean, I think it's Laporta. Ryan, Pacheco or Tracy Jr.? I lean Pacheco. If he plays, I lean Pacheco. Peace Control. Do I try and make a trade? I have D. Smith, Moore, Chase, Nico, Olave. I like the team overall, Peace Control. I'm not making moves. Mish the one. Trade Pacheco for Kittle? No, wouldn't do that. I think that's a bit premature because if Pacheco comes back and has that RB1 spot, you're going to be ruining the day you made that trade. C Duo 4, Tillman, Neighbors, Hunt, or James Conner. I do like Malik Neighbors this week, but I got to go Kareem Hunt right now. C Duo 4, I'd go Kareem Hunt 1, Neighbors would be 2 on that. Gabe Esquire, Gabe, I'd go Pickens over Jennings. Appreciate your questions. Hope you're enjoying the show. Trey Wimp, Ridley for Hunt. I get Ridley. It's okay. I think you're losing out this week, rest of season. As long as Hunt is firmly RB2, I like the trade. But if he splits carries with Pacheco, it's not a good deal. There's a part of me that says maybe you want to wait on trading Kareem Hunt. Now, I didn't feel that way a little while ago, a couple weeks ago. But with the way Kareem Hunt has played, there's just a part of me that's like, are they really just going to go back to the way things were with RB1, RB2? I don't know. New Jersey memes, drop Dobbs for JMO. Yes, I would. 69 Kevo, Tillman, Reed, or Quentin Johnston. I'd go Quentin Johnston this week. 69 Kevo, I'd go Quentin Johnston. Hawkeye, Jameis Winston, or Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert. Hawkeye, I'd go Justin Herbert. User 94411, Hawkinson or Goddard. I'm going to say I'd lean slightly towards... I'm going to say Hawkinson. I'll say Hawkinson over Goddard. Close call, but Hawkinson over Goddard's the play for me. Bunch of my favorite plays for tonight are up on our big board. If you guys want every pick that I make every single day, DM me on Instagram, Fumble Sports. That's the name of my handle. Obviously, it's the name of our show and channel. Make sure you DM me on Instagram. That way you can see us every single time. Can you please request people? Mets Pros, what do you mean request people? Take callers? I don't think I'm going to take callers today. We're going to keep things pretty short today. IDK, is Pacheco coming back this week? That is my knowledge and expectation. Obviously, we'll be keeping our ears perked for any news throughout the week. Cole, Puka, and Ferguson for Wilson and Bowers. I get Puka. Nah, I'd rather have Wilson and Bowers. Look, I have been wrong about Brock Bowers a couple times this year. I liked him in drafts, but I didn't think that he would be able to sustain this kind of value throughout the season, especially with Gardner Minshew as the quarterback. I have been wrong. One thing I always love doing in front of you guys is telling you when I've been wrong about something, because that way you guys don't think that I always think I'm right, because I'm not always right. I get things wrong all the time. Data kind of leads me down certain tracks. Have we seen rookie tight ends perform at this level throughout an entire season? No. Brock Bowers is special. He is a one of one. He's been phenomenal. And right now I wouldn't move on from him. He, you could argue, has been the best fantasy tight end from week 1 until week 11. I just wouldn't move on from him right now. Okay, I'm starting to lose my voice, which tells me I'm going to wrap things up. Makes things a little bit better for future days if I have my voice. So, I will be with you guys at 4:30 tomorrow. There's a chance I might do a subscriber-only show tonight. A pretty good chance, I would say. So subscribe on TikTok. Good chance I'll do a subscriber-only show tonight. So if you have a bunch of questions, make sure you subscribe on TikTok. That way you can ask your questions on that subscriber-only show. Usually do those around 10:30. So make sure you check those out. If you don't want to subscribe, totally cool. We will be live at 4:30 tomorrow afternoon, Wednesday afternoon. Appreciate you guys watching the show. Hope you love being with us every single day. I certainly love talking sports with you guys every day. You're the best. If you don't hear it enough, you out there, you're amazing, you're wonderful, you're awesome. Hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll catch you guys either in the subscriber-only show or in our show tomorrow. Until then, goodbye, everybody.